Hello, ma'am. Good morning. My name is Irene Dalos Reyes, and the assigned topic given to me is about prostate cancer. Yung partner ko na si Miss Jade Inhumang, ma'am, is hindi ko po kasi makontak, kaya ako na lang po mag-isa ang gumawa ng concept map and this presentation of prostate cancer. So, start na ako for presenting. What is a prostate cancer? The prostate cancer is the carcinoma of the prostate gland that may spread to other parts of the body, particularly sa bones and lymph nodes. So, what will be the topics to be discussed here? Number 1 is risk factors. Next, the signs and symptoms, complications, possible nursing diagnosis, the nursing interventions, diagnostic procedures, and also the medical management. Now, we go to the risk factors. Number 1, obesity due to possibly a high-fat diet. Another risk factor is increasing age, which is the strongest risk factor. About 63% of prostate cancer occurs in men over the age of 65. Another risk factor is the race. It is more common in African American and Jamaican men than other men. The reasons are unknown. Next risk factor is family history and genetic. Lower levels of vitamin D. So this vitamin is an essential part of the steroid hormone superfamily. Prostate cancer occurs more frequently in older men in whom vitamin D deficiency is more common because of both less UV exposure and age-related declines in the hydrolases responsible for synthesis of active vitamin D. Another risk factor is the prostatitis, a frequently painful condition that involves inflammation of the prostate and sometimes the areas around the prostate. Another one is the elevated blood levels of testosterone. And lastly, the endogenous hormones such as androgens and estrogens, which may be associated with the development of prostate cancer. Now we go to signs and symptoms. So prostate cancer may be asymptomatic in its early stages. When the tumor grows large enough, it comprises a weak or interrupted urine flow, hematuria or blood in the urine, nocturia or excessive urination at night, dysuria or feel of burning sensation when you urinate, pain in the pelvis, spine, and ribs, lymphedema, and renal insufficiency. So what are the complications? Number 1 is hemorrhage and shock, infection, deep vein thrombosis, catheter obstruction, sexual dysfunction, and urinary incontinence. Now we go to the possible nursing diagnosis. According to the Nanda books that I've searched, number 1, risk for urinary retention related to obstruction of urinary catheter with tissue debris and blood clots or urethral stricture. Next, risk for infection related to impaired tissue and potential contamination of catheters and incisional drains. Another one, risk for impaired skin integrity related to leaking urine from suprapubic catheter. Another, urge or total urinary incontinence related to altered urinary sphincter or nerve damage secondary to surgical procedure if nerves have been spared. Another one, sexual dysfunction related to structural changes secondary to surgical procedure. So, for the preoperative nursing diagnosis, ito yung bago ma-operate yung patient. Possible nursing diagnosis is anxiety related to inability to void, acute pain related to bladder distension, and deficient knowledge of the problem and treatment protocol. For the post-operative or after ng surgery, acute pain related to surgical incision, catheter placement, and bladder spasm, and also deficient knowledge about post-operative care. So we go now to the nursing interventions. We focus on the pre-operative and the post-operative. So for the pre-operative, number one, reducing anxiety. So clarify the nature of the surgery and expected post-operative outcomes. Also, provide privacy and establish a trusting and professional relationship and encourage the patient to discuss feelings and concerns. Number two is relieving discomfort. While the patient is on bed rest, administer analgesic agents, initiate measures to relieve anxiety. Also, monitor voiding patterns and watch for bladder distension. Insert indwelling catheter if urinary retention is present or if laboratory test results indicates azotemia. Also, prepare the patient for cystostomy if urinary catheter is not tolerated. And then number three, provide instruction. So always review the patient anatomy or the affected structures and their function in relation to the urinary and reproductive systems using diagrams and other teaching aids if indicated. Explain what will take place while the patient is prepared for diagnostic test, and then for surgery depending on the type of prostatectomy planned. Also, reinforce information given by the surgeon, explain procedures expected to occur during the immediate perioperative period, answer questions from the patient or any family members, and provide emotional support. Also, provide information about the post-operative pain management. And then number four, preparing a patient for treatment. So apply graduated compression stockings and administer enema if ordered. Now we go to the nursing intervention of post-operative. So number one, maintaining the fluid balance by closely monitoring the urine output and the amount of fluid used for irrigation, and then maintain the intake-output rate record. Another is monitor for the electrolyte imbalances such as hyponatremia, increasing blood pressure, confusion, and respiratory distress. Number two is relieving pain. So distinguish cause and locations of pain, including bladder spasms. Next, give analgesic agents for incisional pain and smooth muscle relaxants for bladder spasm. Monitor drainage tubings and irrigate drainage system to correct any obstruction. Next, secure the catheter to the leg or abdomen by taping it. Next is monitor dressings and adjust to ensure that they are not too snug or not too saturated or are improperly placed. And also provides stool softener, prune juice, or an enema if prescribed. Now we go to the diagnostic procedures. So after obtaining the history and physical examination of the patient, the doctor can use digital rectal examination. This is useful in ruling out the prostate enlargement caused by benign prostatic hyperplasia. Next. So prostate-specific antigen level. A prostate specific antigen level is a protein produced by the prostate gland. So all men have a small amount of the prostate-specific antigen in their blood, and it increases with age. Prostate cancer can increase the production of prostate-specific antigen, and so the prostate-specific antigen test looks for raised levels of prostate-specific antigen in the blood. That may be a sign of the condition in its early stages. So usually the normal level is below 2.5 for men in their 50s. So mostly prostate-specific antigen levels up to 4.0 nanogram per milliliter, which considered as normal. But if the level is above 4.0 nanogram per milliliter, the doctors would often recommend a prostate biopsy to determine whether prostate cancer was present. If prostate-specific antigen is very high, the cancer has probably spread to or beyond the prostate. Another diagnostic procedures is the transrectal ultrasound, bone scans, skeletal X-rays, and MRI, the pelvic CT scans, and monoclonal antibody-based imaging, which may be also used to assess the extension into the bladder and lymph nodes for staging the cancer and to evaluate bone metastases. Another diagnostic procedure, the diagnosis is confirmed by a histologic examination of tissue removed surgically by transuteral resection of the prostate or TURP, open prostatectomy, ultrasound-guided rectal needle biopsy, or fine needle aspiration. So biopsy is used in the diagnosis and help to determine the Gleason score. Itong Gleason score is the samples of the tissue from the biopsy are studied in the laboratory. If cancerous cells are found, they can be studied further to see how quickly this cancer will spread. So this measure is known as the Gleason score. The lower the score, the less likely the cancer will spread. A Gleason score of 6 or less means the cancer is unlikely to spread. A Gleason score of 7 means there is a moderate chance of the cancer spreading. A Gleason score of 8 or above means there is a significant chance the cancer will spread. And now we go to the medical management. Treatment is based on the patient's life expectancy, symptoms, risk of recurrence after definitive treatment, size of the tumor, the Gleason score, the PSA level, likelihood of complications, and the patient's preference. So management can range from non-surgical methods that involves watchful waiting to surgery, example, the prostatectomy. Number 1, medical management is radical prostatectomy. So that is the picture. This is a removal of the prostate, seminal vesicles, tips of the vas deferens, and often the surrounding fats, nerves, and blood vessels through suprapubic approach, perineal approach, or retropubic approach. This procedure is used with patients whose tumor is confined to the prostate, sexual impotency, and various degrees of urinary incontinence commonly follow radical prostatectomy. Another medical management is radiation therapy, brachytherapy. So, external beam radiotherapy is a radiation directed towards the whole pelvis externally. The brachytherapy, it is an internal implant of radioactive seeds. These tiny radioactive seeds are placed in the body close to the tumor. It is commonly used monotherapy treatment option for early clinical clinically organ-confined prostate cancer. So ang side effects ng radiation therapy and brachytherapy is inflammation of the rectum, bowel, and the bladder, acute urinary dysfunction, pain with the urination and ejaculation, rectal urgency, diarrhea and tenesmus, rectal proctitis, bleeding, and rectal fistula, painless hematuria, chronic interstitial cystitis, urethral stricture, erectile dysfunction, and rarely, secondary cancers of the rectum and bladder. So ganyan po ang radiation therapy as seen on the picture. Another medical management is the hormone therapy. So the goal of hormone therapy is to reduce levels of hormones called the androgens in the body and to prevent them from reaching prostate cancer cells. The androgen deprivation therapy is accomplished either by surgical castration, bilateral orchiectomy, removal of the testis, or by medical castration with the administration of medications such as the luteinizing hormone-releasing hormone agonists. These luteinizing hormone blockers stop the pituitary gland making the hormone, so the testicles don't receive the message telling them to make testosterone. Another abiraterone or Zytiga is an oral androgen biosynthesis inhibitor that works by inhibiting the CYP17 enzyme complex, which is required for the production of androgens at these three sources: the adrenal gland, testis, and the prostate tumor. Zytiga and prednisone combination is given in such cases. Also, another new drug being studied known as orteronel works in a similar way with abiraterone. This drug may be target CYP17 more precisely, which may do away with the need for taking a steroid drug such as prednisone along with the treatment. Orteronel is only available in clinical trials at this time. Another management is chemotherapy or drug therapy. So chemotherapy is sometimes used if prostate cancer has spread outside the prostate gland and hormone therapy isn't working. For prostate cancer, chemo drugs are typically used one at a time. In most cases, the first chemo drug given is docetaxel combined with the steroid drug prednisone. If this drug does not work or stops working, a newer drug called cabazitaxel is given, especially in cases when cancer has stopped responding to hormone therapy and chemotherapy. Other chemo drugs used to treat prostate cancer includes the doxorubicin, etoposide, vinblastine, paclitaxel, and carboplatin. Another medical management is vaccination of triple P prevents. This is a cancer vaccine used to treat advanced prostate cancer. So most vaccines are designed to prevent diseases, but this vaccine is aimed at treating prostate cancer, not preventing it. This vaccine is not mass-produced. It has to be made special for each patient from his own blood cells. So yung white blood cells of the patient are removed from the patient's blood and then sent to the laboratory where they are exposed to a certain protein from prostate cancer cells. So these cells are given back to the patient into the vein via IV, and then this process is done 2 more times 2 weeks apart so that the patient gets 3 doses of cells. So another medical management is cryotherapy. It is done for those who cannot physically tolerate surgery or for recurrence. This can be done through repeated transurethral resection of the prostate to keep urethral patient suprapubic or transurethral catheter drainage when repeated to transurethral resection of the prostate is impractical. Another is the opioid or non-opioid medications to control pain with metastasis to bone, blood transfusions to maintain adequate hemoglobins, and various forms of complementary and alternative medicines. So there. Additional medical management is external beam for primary, adjuvant, and recurrent disease. And like what I've said a while ago, yung blood transfusion and the complementary and alternative medicine for the cryotherapy. So these are my references now. So, and this ends my presentation. And thank you for listening, ma'am.